So you might be wondering why we have named it the Trade School for Punks, Alchemists, and Architects.
And this was coming out of us reading about the punk movement and thinking about the building that we were literally meeting at, which uses School of the Prophets or Schola Prophetarum, Tirum, as a marketing, but also just like a branding thing of like, this is the people that we're producing. And I wanted to push back on that a little bit when we were reading the stuff about the punk movement, mostly because I was sitting in classrooms with people that were really good at describing the problem, and not so good at moving from that place into creating or just a more active place.
Yeah. And so we hope that our peers and colleagues and professors and staff and ourselves are not just people who can name the problem and write a really good analysis of the problem, but also start to dismantle and divest and destroy and also construct and build a new world to live in and new ways of being together.
So our first image that we wanted to replace this idea of School of the Prophets was School of the Punks, and we thought that was appropriate. You know, like prophets were just like describing the problem, saying this thing might happen. Punks were actually like taking an item and like smashy, like we are the ones we've been waiting for type of thing. And our rage is justified, and it is justified to come out in these ways where the whole system has to come down. And so we really resonated with that sort of like, let's just do it. We're going to do it right now.
Yeah, and a lot of them were not experts, and they inspired, a lot of them didn't even know how to play instruments, and they inspired so many people to just pick something up and try it, even if they didn't have any training or didn't know how to play an instrument or didn't know how to like make a print or do any sort of like writing about music, and they inspired people to just try it and figure it out. And so that was also something that we really resonated with, because we've been also just kind of trying to make things and trying to figure it out for ourselves.
And making things out of what they already had too.
Yeah.
This was about using the destroyed world to create the new world. So a lot of recycled materials, a lot of just finding new purposes for things that were already created. So that's kind of why we really love the image of the punks. Our professor, supervisor, person pointed out that it's typically portrayed as a very white movement. So we wanted to kind of add some images to that so that we weren't just trying to recreate this like white smashy, I'm middle class, but not anymore sort of thing. So we came up with the image of the alchemist.
Yeah, and so alchemist is sort of like a mixture between science and magic, of turning things into other things and kind of finding uses for more natural materials, for healing.
Yeah, and it makes room for the spirit. You know, we are in a divinity school. So we wanted to also talk about like how do we create the space for magic to happen, and both that we will allow space for magic to happen, but also that we are like the substance of magical things. So for me, it was like, let's draw on the natural world, let's draw on like spirit, or God, whoever, to help birth this new thing.
Yeah, and then we were thinking we also need to plan and build and be able to think ahead creatively. We need to be ready for a different world, a new world. And so that's sort of where the architects came out of, is they think in very detailed ways about physics, what kind of materials we'll need, kind of dreaming about the space, like what it should convey and encourage in the community. So we're thinking about kind of that detail oriented, but also forward thinking and planning for the future, laying foundations and support beams, and then kind of the whole process of what it needs to build. Um,
And creating institutions.
yeah.
My new friends at Movement Generation in Oakland have this really amazing like short phrase that captures everything that I want to say in the world, but which is, if we're not prepared to govern, we're not prepared to win. And so the architect's job is to kind of build out that governance in the space that this new world will happen in. So that's the three images that we chose. We really invite you to add more, to bring them in October, or we are in October 21st and 22nd, and help build, because this is a point where we need all hands on deck.
Yeah.
All the different things. These were the three that stood out to us. We definitely invite you to bring more.
Yeah, and help us reimagine the kind of education that Vanderbilt Divinity School can have for its students, but also for the wider community, and how it can take a more active role in making change in the world.